5 minutes after 9 o'clock, it's Friday, and you're hearing that music, and that must mean it's time for the show called Winging It, where we learn about flying and what it takes to become a pilot from Ocala Aviation Flight School. Josh Verdonk is in the studio. Brad Borisma is not here. Kevin is here in Brad's place, and we've met Kevin before, but haven't seen you in a while. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Josh. How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Where's Brad?
Some sort of meeting or something. I think he just got lazy. I don't know. But I brought Kevin with me. Kevin has gone through all of his training with us here at Ocala Aviation. He got his private, his instrument, his commercial licenses, and his flight instructor license as well. And in the next couple weeks here, he's going to be taking his, or he might even take it today, his instrument flight instructor check ride as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So I can teach instrument students now.
Yep.
Is that scary to be flying with just the instruments?
At first.
Oh, really?
It's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more you do it, the more comfortable it feels.
Because you have to be confident in those instruments.
Yes, you definitely have to trust those instruments.
Right? Yeah.
Are they checked often?
Yes. Yeah, they're required to go through mandatory inspections and everything like that. But the big thing is you got to learn not to trust your own senses and to actually trust the instruments.
Right.
There was a video on YouTube I wanted to ask you about. It was a camera on I guess inside the windshield. I don't know what the cockpit of a small plane, and it was flying just over the treetops, and apparently it clipped the treetops and then crashed. So it was it's getting a lot of hits on the YouTube, and I guess the guy's okay. So that's the good news. But I wondered if there was like a margin of error that you have to consider. Like when you know how tall the treetops are, the wind could just. I'm trying to figure out why he suddenly went down and hit those trees. What caused him to go down? I mean, not that you would know that, but
it could have. It could have been a number of things. The first thing that comes to my mind is that that's not legal to be that low.
Oh, see, that makes sense.
All right.
Yeah.
There's the Federal Aviation Regulations specify that the minimum safe altitude in a non-congested area, or other than congested is the way they put it, is 500 feet above the surface, all right? Or at an altitude that a safe emergency landing could be made in the event of a engine failure.
Right. Which gives that loophole for the crop dusters, stuff like that have to fly low.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so in their case, yeah. No,
but flying that low over the trees and stuff like that's probably not the smartest thing, unless he was there because he had to be. But by the sounds of it, he was just there to try to be cool. Right. And could have been a gust of wind that popped up, or maybe he just misjudged the height of a tree or something like that. I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't know. But we definitely don't. We don't. It's not a good thing to be flying that low to the trees. Just because things like that can happen, and the airplane's moving at a very high rate of speed, it's not a smart thing to be that low. I would think, yeah. So it's good. It's good to hear that it's at least illegal. At least some kind of legislation was put in place to keep people,
from doing that.
You would think that common sense would keep you away from there, but
yeah. Not everybody has that though.
Now, common sense is no longer common.
Now, let me ask you about something that's local, and I've heard a couple of people doing this, and every time I hear about this, they say, but when we saw somebody, we lifted, got higher in altitude so they couldn't see our number. And that is flying along the rivers. Apparently that's a popular thing, but illegal, right? To fly real close to the rivers, and then when you see a boat, you lift up so nobody can report your number?
It's the same thing, yeah.
Same thing?
Just like with the trees, you want to be the 500 feet away from any person too, so what they do is they try to push the envelope and get as close as they can to the water, and then at the last minute they try to pull up and get out of sight of the boat or whatever is coming at them.
I guess it's one of those extreme things you hear about, right?
Yeah.
Let's do some extreme flying, right?
Yeah.
Not something you recommend, right?
Definitely not.
Does the instrument flying when you're using the gauges, etc., does that is that represented accurately in the flight simulators, that like the home ones that we get?
To a certain degree. The instruments are are portrayed correctly and they react like they would if in the airplane. The big issue with flying instruments is not well, half of it is interpreting what the instruments are telling you and knowing how to correct for whatever you see, and also being able to trust the instruments when your body's telling you something else, because you can't see outside.
Oh, wow.
Your inner ear is telling you something that might not be actually correct, you know. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is for students to learn to trust those instruments and continue their instrument scan even when their body's telling them, their kinesthetic senses are telling them that the airplane's actually doing something it's not.
Oh, wow. And does that happen often, where your body tells you you're turning or climbing or something?
It does, actually, because the inner ear can only sense acceleration. It's like when you get into a car and you accelerate to 70 miles an hour,
right?
You feel that through the acceleration, and then if you were to close your eyes, your body would think, I'm at a standstill, right? Because
That's true, yeah.
You're no longer accelerating.
Right, right.
When you open your eyes, you know, your brain tells you, oh yeah, we're moving. Right. That's the only way you know at that point. Now in an airplane, you're looking only at the instruments. If there's any kind of turbulence or in a turn or anything like that, your inner ear senses the acceleration or the deceleration as you make a turn or whatever, until you're in that turn and you're not increasing your bank anymore, and then it settles down and it thinks, all right, everything's, you know, the panel's not moving, so we must not be moving, when really you could be in a turn or a climb or something like that.
Oh, wow. So you have to learn to not trust what you've learned to trust on the ground.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And I always tell my students too that people weren't designed to fly. You know, we weren't.
That's true. Yeah.
We weren't created with wings, or, you know, that aspect. And the planes are designed to fly, so we need to trust that. Yeah.
All right, we have a couple announcements. We want to congratulate Max Sains. Is that how you say it? Sains. Yeah. He soloed this week. Basically, that means he took the airplane up for the first time by himself. And we also want to congratulate Matt Erishman, who got his commercial license this week as well. He did a very good job with that. He's another one of our students who has done the private and the instrument commercial, and he's also working towards getting his instructor. Now, I didn't teach any of his ratings. I did teach Kevin when he did his instrument and his commercial. So,
all right.
Learned a little bit.
All right, let's go to the phone and see what's on the minds of the listeners. Good morning. You're on the air with Josh and Kevin.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I'd like to know what if you know there was an ultimate decision made with our control tower, whether it's going to be kept open or whatever they decide about. It comes down from the Federal Aviation Commission.
Right. Yeah, we don't actually know anything yet. They pushed the decision back to today. So we don't know anything yet, and they're supposed to be making their final decision sometime today. You know, if I know anything about the way these things work, it might get pushed back again for another week. You know, you never know with these things. But when we know something, we will for sure. When we know something that's official, we'll announce that on the air for sure.
Well, that'd be great. I just think that people, whoever are thinking about this, don't realize that this particular area, you either got to go 30 miles north, or was it 25 or 30 miles south to go to Leesburg or to Gainesville, as far as being able to handle a large plane or say a military plane or whatever.
Well, Leesburg's probably going to be closing down too, but
I think Gainesville will be the closest.
Yes, Gainesville would be the closest towered field, and we'll kind of see what they do. Unfortunately, the way that these laws are made or decisions are made don't always, you know, follow what we would consider as common sense.
Yeah.
But
well, the other thing I don't think anybody mentioned was when we had the fires here, the real drought year that we had the fire bombers coming in, and they were actually the planes coming in and tanking up with water, fuel, and the retardant or whatever they were dumping on the fires. They were, our field could handle that.
Right.
Plus the regular aviation.
Yep.
The fact that it's so long, and the fact that the approach areas are pretty good. You don't have anything crazy going on in in what I would call the approach lanes.
Yep, yeah. And the loss of our tower will not necessarily affect our ability to handle those kind of airplanes. It just means that it's up to the pilot to maintain that separation from other aircraft. So even if we do lose our tower, we'll still be able to, the airport will still be able to accommodate those larger aircraft like the horse plane and everything like that.
We just won't have someone to
orchestrate. Yeah, I remember the planes coming in for the horses a long time ago before we had the tower. But still, it's with today's technology and things that are moving along. I think you've compared 10 or 15 years ago as to what's going on today. Everything moves faster, and I definitely think you do need the control tower as opposed to even 10 years ago.
Yep. Yeah. Well, the skies are definitely much more busy than they used to be.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. You have a great program. And thank you, WOCA. You all have a good weekend now.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I wondered about that too, actually. I wondered if that had an effect on emergency uses for an airport if the tower was gone. It sounds like it's not, has no effect, right?
Yeah, the airport's still going to have the same length of airstrip, and we're still going to have the approaches.
Last week I asked about reports about these low-flying helicopters and things like that, and it sounded like Brad had his share of calls that it was annoying to a point. Yesterday there was a boom in the air that people were reporting about 9 o'clock last night. Did you guys get a call about that?
We didn't get a call about that. I did hear about it.
Yeah.
Most likely, I didn't hear it. But by what I've heard, it kind of sounds like it might have been a sonic boom or something like that. Maybe
that's what it sounds like.
One of the they were doing some kind of training or something like that, and they scrambled a jet to go somewhere to look at something or something like that, and
pushed the envelope a little bit.
Yep, went past the sound barrier, which they usually don't do over land unless they absolutely have to. So
now, would it be? I guess it would be. It depends on where the plane was flying. It was reported in Levy, Alachua, Gilchrist, Marion, and whatever DeBarry. Is DeBarry a county or a city? It's both, right? Well, anyway, as far south as DeBarry is what it says. So that's a pretty large area. So
well, if they're high enough,
yeah,
sound travels.
I didn't hear it either, actually, but I
didn't.
But a lot of people on Facebook, Robin said she heard it. It sounded huge. She thought it was one of those power things that exploded. So.
Yeah, they're pretty pretty loud booms. I've heard a couple of them growing up and everything like that.
I wonder what it's like. Have either of you ever flown in a plane that was going faster than
No.
I wonder what that's like in there.
I've heard there's not really any change.
You don't notice it in there,
no.
Huh? Wow.
I mean, I had a kind of a fascination with the Concorde a couple years ago, and I did a bunch of research on it and all this kind of stuff. So and actually, a pretty interesting airplane. It's sad that it's not flying anymore because of all the technical or the technology strides that they made with the Concorde to get a passenger airplane to go that fast. But when you're inside of it, you didn't really notice anything at all.
Yeah. Wow.
The big change with the Concorde was it actually, in flight, it stretched by about 4.5 to 5 feet.
Wow.
The entire length of the Concorde stretched. And on the last flight, there was a space between the flight engineer's station and the bulkhead of the airplane that opened up in flight. Opened up to about, I don't know, 6 inches or so.
Opened up as if something could fall through it?
No. But the flight engineer station moved away from the bulkhead.
Okay.
Yeah, the skin of the airplane wasn't breached, but the skin was designed to allow the airplane to stretch.
Oh,
by
I got it. Okay.
That meter and a half or whatever it was as they approached because of the compression. And what the flight engineer did on the last flight of the Concorde is they put their hat in that gap so that when they landed or when they slowed down and the airplane contracted again, that hat was smashed in there, never to get out again.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of a cool thing they did.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting to note that they designed this airplane knowing that it needed to be able to withstand stretching and contracting as it sped through the air.
So is that true for the space shuttle too, and anything else that goes that fast?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It really depends.
Huh. I never knew that. Wow, I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
So is there a Concorde in some museum somewhere?
Oh yeah, they're all in museums now, actually.
Really? That is sad that it's not flying anymore.
Yeah, well, the big issue was it was getting the airline industry. They were at a point where they were thinking, oh, people are going to pay for speed rather than for comfort and mass. So what the companies have done now is they've gone to things like the Airbus, where you can haul a whole lot of people in one airplane at less speed rather than a small amount of people at great speed. And they make more money when they haul more at slower speed than, you know. So it was just kind of a turning point, and inevitably it happened that, you know, the airline companies were buying airplanes that were larger capacity of passengers and a little bit slower because they'd make more money than
I guess
trying to maintain the high-speed airplane.
I actually saw the Concorde one time in the air in New York, and it had that design where the nose would tilt forward or something, or the body would tilt backward.
No, the nose actually on the ground it pitches forward so that the pilot can see out. Now, as they approach supersonic speeds, the nose actually pitches up, and there's a shield that covers the windshield to reduce noise and protect the windshield.
Oh, so they are totally flying with instruments. Speaking of instrument flying, right?
They don't see outside. Yeah.
I never knew that. Were the passengers able to see outside at Super?
Yeah.
Oh, they were.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was just the front of the airplane that had that guard that came up.
Wow, that is cool.
But yeah, I once saw it take off out of London, and it's about ear splitting. It's very, very loud.
Looks like you have another phone call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Oh, good morning. It's Sonny again. Since you're talking about fast planes, the job I had when I was working was up for the utility, and a lot of times we'd be out on the taxiways or the runways and whatever doing our job, locating faults or something. And I can remember the Concorde taking off from Kennedy, and we were out on the airfield, and that racket is enough to like almost really disorient you. It's so loud, and it's just absolutely amazing. The other thing I'd like to mention, I was going to call up since you were talking about it, was the SR-71 or the Blackbird or the YF-12. It's all the same plane though, and you guys could appreciate this. If we had the computer controls that we have now that are operating in planes in place in the SR-71, I just can't imagine what that plane would be able to do today. And that plane had a terrific coefficient of expansion and contraction. And they used to take off with only a partial load of fuel till they got in the air when the hull temperature started to warm up a little bit and everything sealed up because of the expansion. And that's when they would refuel it, and that's when this thing would really take off. But I'm just wondering if you guys were ever curious about how that plane could fly and perform using the modern engine, computer-controlled engine controls, etc., that they needed for that plane to achieve 84,000 plus feet altitude. I'd love your comment on that. I'll hang up. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe that bird also has the record for the highest altitude
that we know of.
We know of, anyways. Yeah.
And what he said about it expanding, the thing actually leaked fuel while it sat on the ground.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because the metal would expand at those high of air speeds, and at the friction, that the panels would expand and seal up, but it leaked fuel on the ground. So they'd fill it only a little bit full of fuel, take off, wait for the friction to seal up the fuel compartments, and then fill it up again.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, his question about, what do you think an airplane like that could do if it had today's technology? Well, remember that the SR-22 Blackbird was classified for good 8 years or something like that, while they were, same with the U-2, spy plane was classified for the longest time. and you know, nobody knew about it. So I'm sure that.
So there's something out there now.
I'm sure there's something out there, you know.
The modern technology in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually might explain that boom we heard last night.
It could have been, you know.
Could be something.
We can always speculate with that, and you know, maybe with all the budget cuts, they're not doing anything, you know, like that. But they've always been the military's always been on the forefront of these technologies,
which is a good thing for us.
Well, yeah, which is a good thing for us,
I think. And
I trust that, you know, the people that are in charge of that make their decisions to keep the rest of us safe and everything like that.
I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, just if you think about it, you know, they had all these technologies. What would an airplane with those capabilities do now? Well,
maybe we'll find out in 8 years.
Yeah, maybe in a couple of years we'll find out. And
right.
Then I'll be famous. That, or I'll get a phone call here, or a bunch of people in black. Yeah, a bunch of people in black SUVs will pull up and take me in for questioning.
And then
how do you know about this?
And they'll just say, you know, he left early for that mission thing he was doing.
Yeah.
We have another phone call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
If you were in the right spot at the right time, could a sonic boom do any damage to your plane in flight?
That's a good question. I know they did a thing on Mythbusters about breaking glass with the sonic boom.
And did it break it or not?
Yeah, it actually, they had a small building that they created, and it blew the windows out of it. But this plane was so close to it, it was maybe 50 to 100 feet from the surface when it hit the boom.
Yeah. Well, there's that YouTube video, if you look it up on YouTube, that says, you know, the sonic boom breaks windows. Is that some kind of event in, I think it's somewhere in Southeast Asia or something, some kind of a military event, and they've got a squadron of jets that fly over, but they fly over at so low and at such a high speed. There's a big, like, glass, it looks like a brand new building made of, you know, glass panes and everything like that. They fly over and it just the windows blow out and everything like that.
Oh my goodness.
Would it damage an airplane?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you know, like a military plane, they go to a certain altitude, right? I mean, they got that space up above, what, 40,000 feet, is it, or whatever? More or less.
Are you talking about a speed limit?
Well, just to where they can fly, and then they create the sonic boom when they're up there, or when they're diving down, or how would that happen?
I believe the sonic boom happens as they go in and out the speed of sound.
At that higher altitude.
Well, it doesn't really matter what altitude they're at. Usually they break the sound barrier at the higher altitude because the air is less dense.
Right.
What's actually happening is as the airplane gets close to breaking that sound barrier, the air actually builds up on the nose. There's a lot of friction on that as the airplane cuts through that air.
Yeah.
And they do this at higher altitudes because the air is less dense. And that boom that you hear is actually the air kind of shearing off of the nose behind the airplane.
Right.
Oh, okay.
It's like a clap.
Yeah.
Yeah. A quick question on the tower. Do they have weather radar there also?
They don't have weather radar, but they do have an automated weather observation system.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think there's a possibility that maybe going private if they do lose their government sponsorship?
They've been trying to work on that. I'm not sure if they could be able to get that
like
through.
A corporation sticking money in there, or maybe even the taxpayer, or people that use the airport,
or local government.
Yeah.
But well, maybe let's hope that it would go that route if the government does pull it, you know, because I think it's important not only for safety, but just it just should be there, you know, a control tower at an airport. Period. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you have a large? Do you have like Josh, for you specifically, since you're leaving in a few months? I mean, do you have a lineup of students that you have to say, okay, I can't take any more because I'm leaving? Do you have
not really. I mean, there's probably going to be a point where I'm going to be able to say, you know, maybe it's better to send that student with Kevin.
Right.
And I've started to do that a little bit with different students that come in. That, you know, I say, all right, Kevin, you take this student. Usually it's just because right now I'm so busy. We're very busy at the flight school, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Also, you know, with Kevin being I want to say younger instructor, but you're not. but a newer instructor. That I want to get him, as much flight time as I can, if I can help him out with that, So, because it's important for an instructor to get experience and stuff like that.
Yeah. So before we go, let's make sure we give out phone numbers. And, is the scholarship out there?
The scholarship is still there. That's a $4,000 scholarship for people between the ages of 17 and 25. Give us a call at the flight school at 352-861-7484 or email us at ocalaaviation@yahoo.com.
Another good show, Josh. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And I'm looking up that hat in the supersonic transport. I'm going to look it up. I want to see.
All right.
I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, online.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
All right,
We'll take a little break and we'll be right back.
Ocala's information station, 13